All right, so welcome to another video. Today we're going to check out Procter and Gamble after the recent earnings, and it's doing really well after earnings right now, pushing back, and I'm going to share with you some tidbits. Keep in mind now these are recommendations to buy, sell, or trade. It's just my own personal opinion. All right, so let's kick things off, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Here was kind of earnings right now. And as you kind of look to this, you could see the estimated 1.64, it was 1.66, so they already kind of did their reporting, and you could see that stock powered back higher because it was selling off, market's been weak, but it's pushing well. It's just doing fantastic. So if you don't know what P&G is, it's basically they do a lot of home type of stuff. So here's kind of stuff like baby care, like Loves and Pampers, fabric care like Bounce, Cheer. I mean, they got a lot of products, Downy, Gain, Tide, you name it. A lot of divisions here, Bounty, Charmin Puffs, Always for feminine care, Tampax, Gillette, Braun, Venus, you name it. Head and Shoulders, Herbal Essence, Pantene, Cascade, Dawn, Febreze. Oh my goodness, like look at all this stuff. Oral Care, Crest, Oral-B, Scope. So you know a lot of these products, probably Pepto-Bismol. So check it out. There's a ton of stuff out there. So these are the products they sell, and obviously a lot of people are buying these kinds of things and they're not cutting back. And they usually handle more of the premium stuff though, but this is what people are buying. Anyways, the earnings reported well, and we're going to go into the technicals. Going into kind of the monthly chart, it's actually looking at it's very tough. Let's just go into the yearly. So here's the yearly chart, and if you really just look at the yearly, this stock's just look at it year after year. There's green bars. There's just not too many years where you got a red bar. You got 1 year, 2 year, 3, 4 years that were actually red. Imagine that. Only 4 years since about 1980 some that were actually red. That's pretty cool, right? So as you look at this actually seems to trend higher year after year. So this is pretty cool. So in a trend of a longer term hold, this looks fantastic. Quarterly, yeah, it whips around a little bit. You'll see some downdrafts here and there. But overall, still, obviously yearly, the trend is higher. From a year after year, the trend is higher. Looking at it on a month by month basis, you can see the stock basically exploded quite well between the 80s and 2000. So that's a 20-year period. A lot of the people that were in the company there made a boatload from the stocks and appreciation. And then this has been going in channels. And then we got a little bit of a toppy action here at the 100, and then that stock continued to push now. So let's go into kind of this more recent trend. So the stock's been moving with some trouble at 100 for a little while. So that was since about 2015 to 2020. We've kind of been in that, $70 to $100 range. And then we had this breakout, boom, coronavirus, everything, all that stuff. It started to explode and power higher, right? So now as we continue to look and zoom into this, you can see we had this nice acceleration channel here to this upside. And then we got a little bit of rejection, powered through that, again, next breakout, came back to retest that support around 128, and then kind of held that level for about a year or so. And then again, next leg higher. So now this stock's been moving well, right? So if we look at over just kind of this last year, and we kind of think about, again, the longer term, we know that it powers higher year after year, not always a lot higher, but we just had this recent massive run up. So here, as we look to kind of looking at this sideways channel where we were just moving sideways for this last year, and now we're starting to get this next breakout, the stock is doing quite well, right? So we got this volume started to pick up speed. That's fantastic and great. We're breaking through the resistance level at around 145, and the stock's pushing higher. We got into these higher levels. So let's zoom in here on the kind of the daily. We got into the higher levels of about 165. And started seeing some pressure. Now, the minute that kind of pulled back a little bit, we came back to retest these supports at around 156, 157. The stock managed to hold. We had these earnings, and now we're pressing back into those upper levels. Now, I'd say be careful. This stock is a bit stretched for its own good, but the earnings and the reports and the discussion has been fantastic. So they're doing well, but the push higher is quite significant. So from a trading perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if we got a little bit of chop. Maybe it'll go higher a little bit and then get some chop, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of chop here moving forward in that stock, because these things can't run up forever. Like you could see Costco here also in a similar fashion, not saying that's the same thing, but like when they run up very quickly, you'll do get some downdrafts, either a pullback like this, which can be a little more violent, and that can be a little bit of a problem. So you see there's the chop in Costco, and then you get the pullback. So that can happen as well, because if that stock starts seeing too fast of a move, you're going to get some of this choppiness that's going to happen, because there's a slim amount of buyers supporting the stock at various levels there, and that's where that chop happens, because then the distribution of capital starts to take place, and then it allows the stock to find kind of its level or value. So anyways, watch these levels right here. So the levels that I'm going to point out for you is about that 155, 156 level. Watch that for a possible support. You're also looking for about 165 as a possible resistance. So in this area, this is kind of the shorter term consolidation that you're looking for. If we're looking at the longer term perspective, this stock does well year after year, as you saw. There's only like 4 red years out of the last 40 years or so. And if you look at just in the recent trend, we've had a nice pop to the upside. So if you're trying to build a position on this, you got to think about it. Am I doing this on the longer term scale, or kind of the medium term multi-year hold, or am I just doing it for like a couple of weeks hold? For a couple of weeks, I think the stock might be running out of steam a little bit. If you're trying to build a position for the longer haul, what would be wiser is anytime you get some choppiness like this, or slight pullbacks, you're adding to positions. So kind of on down days, red days, you're kind of building out your positions and building it that way. That's the way I would look at it from that perspective, rather than going in and saying I'm going to buy everything all at once, because the stock will have some choppiness. And if you look back to some periods here, just take a look right here. We had a nice downward right here, this motion from November to March. There was some choppiness and downward action from 145 to 125. That stock pulled back about $20. And for a stock like this, that's pretty significant. It's a slow mover, but it pulls back. So don't be scared that you kind of missed it, but I wouldn't chase things way up there, and I would watch out. 165 is a good selling area. And then kind of if you're looking at 155 is a nice buy spot on the shorter term. If you're looking at a kind of a more of a medium term, the price level you're kind of looking at is around 145. 145, if it really starts selling off later on, 145 is a critical support level that you're really looking for. And if you really get into some nasty stuff, then kind of 125 is another level that you're looking for support. So you're kind of looking to buy on the dips. Other than that, that stock looks fairly healthy on a longer term perspective. The shorter term perspective, could it be extended? Sure, but these things could continue to run for quite a while. And you'll see stuff like Home Depot too. Like just take a look. Like this stock, when we really just get going on it, look at this price pattern of 250. Stock got extended, right? Then we took a little bit of a pause and break right there. And then that stock, after this pause, look, it continued to right here explode, and then again explode. And that's when we later got some chop, and now we got some pullback. So these stocks can have, like you might be in this area on P&G, or you might be in this area. You don't know yet. But if you're starting to get a little bit of chop, be careful, because it could run and draw down very quickly. So that's why you want to spread out your position. So if you're trying to build a lot of shares, you get 10 shares, 10 shares, 10 shares, 10 shares, 10 shares, and then you allocate your position across maybe 3 to 6 months. And that's looking for the long run. But if you're doing short-term trading, that's a different story. In this case, I would say shorter term, watch that 156 level and 165. From a longer term perspective, distribute your capital, because this stock usually does fairly well. It's healthy, and it continues to power higher. If you look at kind of the moving averages overall, if you look at just, the yearly, year after year, I mean, you normally have it's green. I mean, that's just the stock's been a stable company for many years, and they're very cautious about what they do, the things they do and change and so on. So anyways, that's my thoughts and takes. Feel free to join me on the Discord server. Check out some getting started stuff as well. And, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.